I bury too many friends who believe like I do. Their names are whispered only in secret. Their graves are unmarked. Their stories erased by silence and fear. Some of them were younger than me, boys who barely learned how to grow a beard, but who had already learned how to die for what they believed. Others were fathers with children who still cry for them in the night. I can still see their faces, still hear their voices, sing hymns in the dark, and yet, when I pass the places where they were taken, there is no sign they ever lived. I should have been among them. By every measure, I should not be alive. And maybe, by the end of my story, you will understand why. My name is Rahim. I was born in the northern mountains where stone houses cling to the cliffs and life is as harsh as the land itself. From my earliest memories, I was taught to fear God, obey men, and silence the questions in my heart. Every boy was told the same. To question was betrayal. To seek another way was death. So I bowed when told to bow. I fasted when told to fast. I memorized words I did not understand because that is what was demanded of me. From the outside, I was the perfect son. But inside, something restless stirred like a storm that could not be calmed. Is God only a master to be feared? Or could he be more? Could he be father? Could he love? I dare not say these things aloud. In my land, silence is the only shield. But silence is also a grave. And when the silence inside me cracked, I found a voice I had never known one that would lead me into visions, danger, and choices that could cost me everything. When I speak now, I do not speak because it is safe. I speak because silence has already buried too many stories. If my voice reaches you, then it is only because God has allowed it. And if it has reached you, I beg you, do not let it die with me. I sometimes wonder, if I had been born in America, or Canada, or even in the white cities of Europe, would I have spoken sooner? In my land, every prayer must be whispered, every word measured in fear of soldiers at the door. But I know some of you are watching from places like Texas, London, or Nairobi, where faith can still be spoken aloud without chains or shadows. Tell me, where are you listening from? Write it below. Every place you name reminds me that the light is reaching farther than silence can travel. I will not pretend my story is easy to hear. Some parts will break your heart. Others may shake your faith. But this is not a tale, it is my life. And if you listen to the end, perhaps you will hear what I heard that changed everything. A voice stronger than fear. A love deeper than death. I grew up where winters froze the rivers into glass and summers split the earth into broken stone. My village sat pressed between barren mountains like a forgotten relic of another age. Mud brick homes leaned into one another for strength. Donkeys brayed, goats wandered the alleys, and barefoot children darted through the dust that stung our eyes and stuck to our skin. Life was hard, but faith was harder. In our world, religion was not merely belief, it was survival. The mosque ruled every hour. At dawn, the call to prayer tore open the silence, a wail echoing across the valley as if even the mountains must bow. At noon, the marketplace stilled. Shopkeepers closed their stalls mid-trade, coins and goods left on counters, while men rushed to wash and kneel shoulder to shoulder. At sunset, lamps flickered in rows across rooftops, casting shadows of bowed heads as voices recited what had been recited for centuries. My father bowed, my brothers bowed, I bowed. To miss a prayer was not only shameful, it was dangerous. Men in our village whispered of others beaten, imprisoned, or worse, for being careless. Faith was not something you questioned. It was demanded. But though my body moved in obedience, my heart was absent. I felt like an empty jar, rattling with the noise of duty but never filled with peace. I remember watching my father return from the mosque, his face stern, his lips tight, his satisfaction drawn from obedience. My mother, meanwhile, was a gentler presence. She worked endlessly, scrubbing dishes, kneading bread, sweeping the same dust that returned the next hour. Her eyes carried warmth, but they were weary. Something about her silence unsettled me. I wondered if she, too, carried unspoken questions. At night, I often lay on the roof of our home, wrapped in a thin blanket, staring into a sky so sharp with stars it looked like it could cut you. My lips moved in prayers, but my heart whispered a different question. Is God only watching, demanding, judging, or is he something more? The more I prayed the words I had been taught, the less peace I felt. I tried louder prayers, longer fasts, stricter obedience. I memorized what others could not, recited with fervor, and disciplined my body until exhaustion. Yet the thorn in my chest only cut deeper. And then came the night when silence broke. The power had gone out again, as it often did. Darkness swallowed the village, but the heavens shone brighter for it. I lay awake on the roof, the chill of mountain air biting my skin, when suddenly I saw him, a man clothed in white. His figure radiant yet human, his eyes burning like living flame. He did not speak, yet his presence thundered inside me with a force that both terrified and comforted. Peace and power coursed through me in equal measure, and for the first time in my life, I knew I was not alone. He did not condemn, he did not demand. He simply stood, and in his silence, he told me everything I had longed to hear. You are seen, you are known, you are loved. I woke trembling. My lips whispered prayers, but not the ones I had memorized. They spilled out unformed, raw, desperate. Something alive had stirred within me, and I could not put it back to sleep. From that night on, I was haunted by the man in white, by his eyes, by his peace. In the marketplace, I began to notice whispers I had never noticed before, rumors of a forbidden book. They said it spoke of Isa al-Masih not just as prophet, but as son of God. Such words were dangerous. To believe them was death. Yet my heart raced whenever I overheard the name. I knew I had to find that book. Weeks passed. My fear warred with my hunger, until one morning, courage broke through. I told my family I was traveling to visit a cousin in the valley. In truth, I was searching. 2 valleys away, I found him, a trader of forbidden pages. His stall looked ordinary spices, cloth, trinkets, but his eyes gave him away. Weathered, sharp, almost piercing. When I lingered too long at his table, he asked softly, "Why are you here?" My throat closed, my palms sweated. At last, my voice broke out in a whisper. I need to know who Isa truly island. He studied me for what felt like an eternity. My heart pounded so loudly I thought he could hear it. Then, slowly, from beneath his robe, he pulled out a book. Its cover was worn, its spine cracked, its pages torn and fragile. Half of it was missing, but it was enough. "Take this," he said, his voice like gravel, "but know the cost. If you are caught, you will not live to see another sunrise." My hands shook as I received it. It felt heavier than stone, heavier than life itself. I tucked it into my cloak, my chest burning with both fear and joy. That night, in the hidden corner of my room, I lit a small lamp and opened the gospel for the first time. The words leapt off the page like fire. They did not feel ancient or foreign. They felt alive. They spoke of a God who touched lepers, who healed the blind, who raised the dead, who forgave sins. A God who walked among us, a God who called fishermen, outcasts, women, and children, not just kings and scholars. Where once I had heard only commands, now I heard love. Where once I had felt fear, now I felt hope. I read until my eyes blurred. My tears dripped onto the fragile paper. My chest heaved as I whispered words I had never dared to speak. "Father, if this is you, I am yours." The spark was lit. I did not know yet how far it would spread or how much it would cost. But deep down, I knew one thing. I could never turn back. The spark lit that night did not stay hidden. Fire has a way of showing itself, even when you try to smother it. At first, I guarded the gospel like treasure stolen from a king. I read it in secret, late at night when the house was asleep and the wind masked the sound of turning pages. Every sentence gripped me, as though the words themselves breathed. I underlined verses with bits of charcoal, my hand trembling, afraid even to whisper them aloud. But light has a way of leaking through cracks, and soon the change in me became visible. My prayers were no longer hollow recitations. My words slowed, my whispers lingered. My eyes closed not in duty, but in hunger. My heart pulsed with a life that had never been there before. People noticed. My father noticed. My brothers noticed. Even neighbors noticed. One evening, as we sat around the low table eating lentils and bread, my father's gaze fixed on me. His voice was casual, but his eyes were sharp as a blade. "You pray differently." My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean?" "You used to repeat with power," he said. "Now you whisper. You close your eyes too long. What are you thinking about when you pray?" I forced a smile. "Just trying to be sincere." He said nothing more. But suspicion hung in the air like smoke from a hidden fire. That night, I buried the gospel deeper beneath my bed, trembling at the thought of discovery. But the danger did not fade. It grew sharper still. A few days later, my closest friend, Rahim, found me sitting alone by the river, staring at the mountains. We had known each other since childhood, climbed the same trees, fought the same street fights, shared bread from the same plate. He knew the rhythms of my heart, and he sensed when something had shifted. "You're different," he said, crouching beside me. His tone was not accusing, but searching. "You walk like you're carrying a secret. Tell me, Rahim, what is it?" I wanted to trust him. I wanted to pour out everything that the man in white had found me, that his words had set fire to my chest. But trust is dangerous in my land. A careless word can cost your life. So I stayed silent. Karim leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "Whatever it is, be careful. People talk. Eyes are everywhere." His words should have comforted me, but instead they chilled me. If Karim saw it, then others would too. And they did. One morning, soldiers raided a house 2 streets away. A family was accused of following Isa. We heard the shouting, the blows, the screams of children. We saw the father dragged into the street, blood running down his face. Soldiers piled wood in front of the house, set it alight, and threw his Bible into the flames while neighbors watched in terrified silence. The rest of the family disappeared. No one asked where they were taken, no one dared. That night, I stared at my own fragile gospel, hidden in its jar beneath my bed. My hands shook as I whispered, "Father, am I next?" Faith grew in me, but so did the shadow of fear. Every knock on the door made me jump. Every unfamiliar glance in the market made me wonder if someone knew. The gospel gave me life, but its very existence threatened to take mine. The breaking point came weeks later. I had been reading late into the night, my lamp burning low, the words pulling tears from my eyes. My younger brother, Yusuf, slipped quietly into my room. I didn't hear him until he was standing behind me. "What are you reading?" I nearly dropped the book. I slammed it shut, my paws hammering. "Nothing," I said too quickly. Yusuf's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, reaching for the lamp. Instinctively, I pulled the book away. "Rahim," he whispered, his voice sharp and shaking. "Is that what I think it is?" Silence fell between us, heavy as stone. My lips refused to form a lie. He looked at me with a mix of fear and betrayal. His hands trembled. "Do you know what they'll do if they find this? To you? To all of us?" Tears stung my eyes. I reached for him. "Yusuf, please, don't tell father. Don't tell anyone. Just listen. Let me show you what I've found." But he shook his head violently. "You're going to get us all killed." His voice cracked. "You're not only risking yourself, you're risking mother, father, me." Then, like a shadow slipping into the night, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of wood sounded like soldiers breaking through the door. I buried the gospel outside before dawn, sealing it in a clay jar beneath the earth, my hands raw from digging. For days, I lived on edge, expecting arrest at any moment, but the soldiers never came. Instead, the suspicion in my family's eyes grew heavier. My father's questions sharpened. Yusuf avoided me, his silence louder than any accusation. Even my mother looked at me differently, as though she sensed I was carrying something dangerous but couldn't bring herself to name it. That was when I realized the truth. Faith was no longer private. It never could be. Faith is fire, and fire always leaves smoke. And in a land of watchmen, smoke always draws soldiers. Still, I could not stop. I could not turn back. Each time I retrieved the hidden jar and opened those fragile pages, life surged into me again. The words of Isa burned brighter than my fear. And the more alive I became, the more the world around me turned against me. This is the cost of faith in my land. It is not measured in offerings or attendance. It is measured in suspicion, betrayal, and silence that suffocates. It is measured in blood. And yet, even in the shadow of death, I felt free. Perhaps you do not understand this kind of fear. Perhaps you live where faith is a choice, not a crime. In places like California or Florida, or across Europe, or in the towns of Africa where worship rises freely, you do not fear the knock on the door. You do not hide your prayers. If that is you, then I ask something of you. Let me hear your voice. Write in the comments where you are watching from. Because when you write your city, your country, it becomes a testimony to me that this story has traveled farther than fear can follow. And when you subscribe, when you share this story, it is not just a button you press. It is a way of standing with me. A way of declaring that silence will not win. That the spark in one village can light a fire across the world. The shadow I feared finally caught up with me. It began on a morning like any other. The markets were alive, merchants shouting prices, women haggling over bread, children weaving through donkeys and goats. The air was thick with dust, sweat, and the aroma of spices. Yet beneath the noise, I felt something else. The weight of eyes. Watching, measuring, waiting. By evening, the soldiers came. Their boots thundered against the stones as they marched into our street. Armor clinked, swords clashed against their sides. My neighbors froze mid-step. Women yanked their children indoors. Men lowered their eyes, pretending not to notice. But the soldiers knew exactly where they were going. Their march was steady, unbroken, until it stopped at our door. My heart seized in my chest. The captain barked my name like a curse. Rahim, come out! Inside, silence fell like death. My father's face turned pale, his lips pressed tight. My brothers stared at me as if the rumors whispered in the village had suddenly taken flesh before their eyes. My mother's hands trembled so violently that the bowl she carried tipped, water spilling across the floor like blood. I stepped outside. The captain's eyes were sharp, his mouth curled in disdain. A man who had tasted power too long and now devoured it like bread. He sneered. We have heard whispers, he said. We have heard that you carry forbidden words. Is it true? I opened my mouth, but nothing came. The air was heavy as stone, pressing down on my chest. My throat was dry. He shoved me forward. Answer! Before I could, my father intervened, his voice desperate, almost begging. He is just a boy. He knows nothing of such things. But the captain ignored him. Soldiers seized my arms. Their grip was iron. My mother let out a broken cry as they dragged me away. They tied my hands, covered my head with a rough cloth, and shoved me through the streets. I stumbled, stones cutting my feet. Each step jolted my body as I gasped for air beneath the suffocating fabric. My heart pounded one thought over and over. This is the end. This is the end. When at last they uncovered me, I stood in the courtyard lit by torches. Bare stone walls rose high around us, trapping the night air. The ground was hard-packed dirt. Soldiers ringed the circle, their shadows stretching long and cruel in the firelight. At the center stood men in robes, imams, judges, leaders' faces carved with authority and scorn. Then I saw it. The captain held up my gospel, my hidden treasure, my lifeline. Someone had betrayed me, perhaps my brother, perhaps Karim, perhaps another neighbor who had seen a page through a crack of light. I would never know. The captain waved the book like a weapon. Do you confess? Do you deny the faith of your fathers for this blasphemy? My knees shook. My lips trembled. I remembered the family dragged from their home weeks before, their screams echoing through the night. I remembered the traitor's warning. If you are caught, you will not live to see another sunrise. And yet, I also remembered the man in white. I remembered his eyes, burning yet gentle. His love that reached deeper than fear. The courtyard fell silent, every ear waiting for my words. I whispered, almost too faint to hear, "I cannot deny him." The captain's face twisted with fury. He struck me across the mouth with the back of his hand. Pain seared my jaw. Blood filled my mouth, thick and metallic. Soldiers jeered. One shouted, "Stone him!" Another bellowed, "Cut his throat!" Their voices rose in chaos, a storm of hatred. I closed my eyes, whispering inwardly, "Father, if this is my end, let me die in your arms." But death did not come. The captain raised his hand, silencing the mob. His voice cut through the night. "Not yet. Tomorrow, at dawn, the people will gather. They will see what happens to those who betray the faith." The soldiers dragged me from the courtyard, down a narrow passage into a cell. Stone walls pressed in on all sides. The air reeked of mold and sweat. My wrists burned from the ropes. My body shook not only from fear, but from the exhaustion of carrying it so long. Alone in the darkness, I prayed, "Father, if you want me to die, give me courage. If you want me to live, show me the way." Hours crawled by like years. Rats scratched along the floor. My stomach ached from hunger. I thought of my mother's gentle eyes, my father's disappointment, my brother's fear. I thought of the men who had died before me for the same name. I wondered if heaven was near, if the man in white would stand beside me again at the moment of death. Then something unexpected happened. The door creaked. A guard stepped in, carrying a cup of water. He was tall, his beard thick, his eyes weary. He set the cup near me, but lingered. His expression shifted, uncertain. Then, almost in a whisper, he spoke. I saw him too. My head snapped up. "What?" He looked around, making sure no one else could hear. His voice trembled. "The man in white, years ago, during the war, I thought I was dying. He came to me. His eyes, the same as you say." His breath hitched. But I was too afraid. I said nothing. I buried it inside. He placed the cup closer, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Do not lose heart. You are not alone." Before I could speak, he turned and left, the door slamming shut behind him. For a long time, I stared into the darkness, my heart pounding. I was not mad. I was not imagining. Others had seen him. Even among my enemies, he was at work. That night, I did not sleep. I sat on the cold stone, whispering verses I had memorized, verses that were now my lifeline. "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Dawn was coming, and with it, judgment. Friend, as I speak these words to you, I know some of you are watching from comfort. You may never face chains, torches, or soldiers at your door. You may never taste blood in your mouth for speaking the name of Jesus. But do not let comfort make you silent. If my story stirs your heart, don't just listen and move on. Stand with me, subscribe, share this testimony. Leave your voice in the comments, not for me, but so that others in dark valleys can hear and know they are not alone. Because tomorrow, when the sun rises, my life may be demanded of me. But tonight, I speak so that the spark may not die. Dawn came. The scrape of keys in the iron lock jolted me awake. My body was stiff from the stone floor, my wrists raw from ropes that had cut into the skin all night. 2 guards entered, their faces blank, their hands rough. They dragged me up by the arms, half lifting, half pulling me through the narrow corridor. Outside, the morning air was sharp, cool against my face, yet heavy with dread. The courtyard was no longer empty. It was alive with the murmurs of a gathered crowd. Men with hard eyes, women clutching children, elders leaning on staffs, boys craning their necks to see. Whispers rippled through them as I was thrust forward like an animal led to slaughter. Some faces burned with fury, others with curiosity, a few even pity. I was shoved to my knees. Dust clung to my skin. The taste of blood still lingered in my mouth. The captain stood tall, his chest puffed, his sword at his side. In his hand he held my gospel, my treasure, my life. He lifted it high for all to see. "This," he thundered, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "This is the poison of our land." And this, his finger stabbed the air toward me. This is the traitor who carries it." The crowd roared. Some spat in my direction. Some hurled stones that clattered harmlessly on the dirt beside me. Others shouted, "Death to the blasphemer!" My heart pounded. My body trembled. And yet strangely, unexplainably peace descended on me like a blanket. The fear that had tormented me all night dissolved. My lips moved of their own will. "Father," I whispered, "into your hands I commit my spirit." The captain unsheathed his sword. The steel flashed in the rising sun, cold and merciless. He raised it high above me. I shut my eyes. And then it happened. The air shifted. A sudden wind swept through the courtyard, fierce and unexpected. Dust spiraled upward like a storm. Torches sputtered, flames bending backward, some extinguishing completely. The crowd gasped, pulling shawls over their faces, shielding their eyes. Children wailed. Even the soldiers stepped back in confusion, and in that whirlwind of dust and fear, I saw him again, the man in white. Not only with my eyes, but with my spirit. His presence filled the courtyard, unseen by many, but undeniable to me. His eyes burned with the same fire as before. His voice as steady as eternity itself. "You are mine, do not fear." My knees buckled. Tears streamed down my face. It was him, the one who had first found me under the stars, the one whose words had pierced my soul in secret. He was here, with me, even now. The captain froze mid-strike. His arm trembled, his face drained of color as though he too had glimpsed something beyond this world. His jaw clenched, his knuckles whitened around the hilt of the sword. For a long moment, no one moved. The entire courtyard held its breath. Then, without explanation, the captain lowered his blade. "Throw him out," he muttered, his voice hoarse. "Let the desert judge him." Confusion rippled through the soldiers, but none dared question him. Rough hands seized me again, dragging me through the jeering crowd. Some shouted, "Coward! Kill him now!" Others whispered in shock, unsure of what they had just witnessed. The gates creaked open. With one final shove, they cast me out into the dust beyond the city. I fell to the ground, coughing, gasping, my body battered but alive. Behind me, the gates slammed shut. Before me stretched the desert endless sand, heat already rising with the Sunday. I should have been dead, but I was free. I stumbled for hours, my legs weak, my throat parched. The sun climbed higher, its fire unrelenting. My head spun, my lips cracked. Each step felt like the last. At last, I collapsed onto the sand, the world fading to black. Yet even there, in the emptiness, I felt him near, the man in white. His words whispered inside me, "You are mine. Do not fear." When I woke, the stars had returned, cold and brilliant. Somehow, I had survived the day. A shepherd passing by found me, offered me water, and pointed me toward the mountains. Days later, my feet bleeding, my body trembling with exhaustion, I reached a hidden valley. There, in caves and huts, I found them a small group of believers, living in secret. They welcomed me like family. Their arms pulled me close, their eyes shining with the same fire that had lit mine. For the first time, I was not alone. We broke bread together, we prayed together, we told our stories, each one different, yet each echoing the same truth. The man in white had come to us, one by one, in deserts, in dreams, in prisons, in whispers. The revival I had once heard only as rumor was real, and I was now part of it. Since then, I have carried the gospel wherever I could, sometimes trembling, always cautious, but never again alone. I have seen others believe. I have seen broken hearts healed. I have seen fear turn into courage, darkness into light. Yes, the cost is high. It is measured in blood, in betrayal, in exile, but the joy is greater still. And now, friend, my story has reached you. Perhaps you watch from a place where faith is free, where no soldier will drag you from your home, where no crowd will gather at dawn to watch your execution. If that is true, then count your freedom as a gift. But do not let that freedom make you silent. If my story has stirred your heart, do not let it end here. Share this video. Tell others that Light is still breaking through the darkest places. Leave your voice in the comments, not just for me, but for countless others who hide, who whisper, who fear the knock at the door. And if you have not yet subscribed, I ask you, do so now. It may seem small, just a button on a screen, but each act of courage, each raised voice, each testimony shared pushes back against the silence that seeks to bury us. The man in white is still moving. The fire is still spreading. And no sword, no cell, no desert can stop him. I should have been buried in an unmarked grave, forgotten by the world, my voice silenced forever. Instead, I am here, speaking to you now. Not because I am brave, not because I am strong, but because He Island, the man in white, is not a dream. He is not a legend whispered by desperate men. He is alive. He found me as a boy beneath the mountain stars. He stood with me in a courtyard of death. He carried me through the desert into freedom that no chain, no soldier, no sword could ever take away. And friend, the same voice that called me is calling you. Whether you live in a city where faith is safe or in a village where faith is a crime, His eyes are upon you. He sees, He knows, He calls. Do not harden your heart. Do not waste the time you have. I buried too many friends whose names will never be known, whose stories will never be told. Let mine not be wasted. If you have heard anything today, hear this. There is a love stronger than death, a truth greater than fear, and a Savior who calls you by name. So before you leave, I ask you let your voice join mine. Subscribe to this channel, share this testimony with someone you love, and write your response below. Do not think your words are small. Every comment you write, every share you make, is not just an action, it is a stand against silence. Together, our voices echo across the earth until no darkness can bury them. And when you choose Him, you will find, as I did, that you are never alone.